Have you ever tried to read something really, really old and just thought to yourself, how could this possibly relate to my life right now? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful way to do just that, to bridge that huge gap in time and find real personal meaning in ancient words.
I mean, it's a huge challenge, right? When you're looking at a text this old, how do you get past the history, the culture, the language, and find something that actually resonates with your world? Well, it turns out there is a way. It's a method that completely shifts the goal away from academic study and towards a personal connection. It's a practice called Lectio divina, which translates to divine listening.
So, what exactly is Lectio divina? We're going to explore it by looking at a text from the Old Testament prophet Isaiah. Now, Isaiah is one of what they call the four great prophets. And, well, before we even get into his words, there's actually a surprisingly fun way to remember who these guys are.
Okay, so the four great prophets are Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Isaiah. And just so you know, they're called great simply because their books are really long. But pay attention to their initials here. If you take that first letter from each name, J, E, D, I, you get something that, well, it just might feel a little bit familiar. That's right, Jedi. It's a fun little observation that kind of makes you wonder if George Lucas was a fan, right? But hey, it's for sure a memorable way to keep these ancient figures in mind. Okay, so beyond fun memory tricks, what is Lectio Divina? It's Latin for divine listening. The whole point isn't to analyze it like a historian. The idea is to read slowly and just let the words, seep in. You're actually listening for a word or a phrase that speaks directly to you.
And the practice itself is beautifully simple. First, you read a passage slowly. Second, you notice what word or image kind of jumps out at you. Third, you respond to it inside your head, maybe with a thought or a prayer. And fourth, you just rest and you listen. That's it. It's something anybody can do. So let's see how this actually works. We're going to use a super short 6-verse chapter from one of our Jedi prophets, Isaiah. Chapter 12 is known as a Song of Thanksgiving. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You have to understand the context. This isn't some happy poem written in a time of peace. Nope. It was composed around 735 BCE when the massive Assyrian Empire was literally at the gates, threatening to destroy everything. Isaiah was telling the king, don't count on political alliances. Trust in God. So this Song of Thanksgiving is actually born out of a moment of intense crisis. So, what happens when you actually apply this practice? Well, a small group recently used Lectio Divina on this exact chapter, and the results were just fascinating. The same words sparked completely different, yet equally powerful personal insights for everyone. They kicked things off with the first verse. Imagine reading this really slowly, letting each word land. You were angry with me, but your anger has turned, and you have consoled me. For one person, this verse brought up this really powerful image of parental tough love. You know that feeling, right? You mess up, your parent is mad, but then they pull you into a hug. It's that feeling of being corrected and then immediately embraced. This idea completely transforms the concept of divine anger into something deeply personal and trustworthy. Next, they moved on to this line from verse 3. And this image, drawing water from a spring, it sparked a really deep conversation. And this slide perfectly shows you the power of this practice. That single word, water, meant something different to everybody. For one person, it was a call to action. Hey, the water's there, but you have to draw it. For another, it was a symbol of life, rebirth, what's called living water. And for a third, it immediately connected to other famous stories, like Jesus offering living water at the well. One word, so many layers of personal meaning. So here's the crucial part. As the group worked through the song, a theme started to emerge. That feeling of being saved and consoled, it didn't just end with a sigh of relief. It sparked up really deep gratitude. And that gratitude created a desire to act, to share the experience, to proclaim the good news, to be more intentional about prayer in their own lives. Which all leads us to the ultimate takeaway. Why does a practice like this even matter? Well, it's about shifting our entire approach to how we read these ancient texts. Think about it like this. We can read for information, asking, what does this mean historically? And that's totally valid. It's an act of the mind. Or We can read for transformation and ask, what does this mean to me right now? And that becomes an act of the heart. It's the difference between you studying the text and you creating a space for the text to speak to you.
As one of the people in that group put it, sometimes we just breeze right through things we think we already know. The real gift of this practice is that it gets us to slow down, to be present, and to really, truly listen to the words, letting them reveal something new. And that leaves us with one last question for you. It doesn't have to be a 2,500-year-old text. It could be a poem, a line from a song, a favorite book. If you were to slow down completely and just listen, what words would you choose to hear today?